We're really honored to have Jim Godin here. And I think this is a topic we felt really strongly about including in the program because we're all experts in surgery. We spend years, decades perfecting the surgical technique, but so much of the work we do with athletes, they end up not getting surgery. This is Jim right here, who I'll formally introduce in a second, but so much is not surgery. And we don't have classic training in the PT and the soft tissue work, but that's so much of what we need to know. I just pulled all the athletes I saw in the last year, 35 athletes, only 3 needed surgery. And the last point, anyone who treats athletes, there's innumerable text messages from parents, from trainers, from team docs, and they're not asking us what screw we used or what graft we used. They're asking, what can the athlete do? He's a couple weeks out from surgery. He went on the treadmill. His leg hurts. What do we do? Can we push him? So I'm really excited for Jim to share some of this information with us. So Jim Godin is we're lucky to have him here. He's a senior director of performance and physical therapy for Exos. He's worked with the Dodgers. He's worked with professional athletes of all levels. He's also a member of the NFLPA Pain Management Committee, and we're really happy to have him here. So Jim, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate y'all having me here today. My name is Jim Godin, and I work for a company called Exos. I want to start with a brief kind of introduction of Exos and myself. Exos was founded in 1999 by a gentleman named Mark Verstegen, with the vision of providing the finest facilities, practitioners, and platforms, all seamlessly integrated to ethically enhance our clients' performance. Flash forward to 2024, the mission hasn't changed at all. It's actually allowed us to grow into several different spaces. We're embedded within several Fortune 100 companies to help their employees prepare for their moments that matter most. We've still maintained a large share in the professional athlete space. This year, we're lucky enough to have 140 young men choose to train with us for their NFL Combine and Pro Day experience. We also have the honor of helping service members maintain a high level of operational readiness, both domestically and abroad. This tactical environment is actually where I joined the company in 2011, when myself and 2 others went down to Special Operations Command Central with a mission of optimizing the human weapons system. When we arrived, I had much more hair because it was 11 years ago, and less gray in my beard. But I realized very quickly the problem set was we had a bunch of operators that were hard charging, high capacity, however they had a relatively high level of wear and tear in their chassis at a very young age, and they had to keep going for several more years. So to solve the problem, we had to root ourselves in a system, and that's what we're going to go over today. Before we go too deep, I want to kind of give the lens in which we look at rehab and performance. We look at it from a movement-based approach. This allows us to connect with our athletes because they don't really care about what muscle does what, they care about what gets them going forward. To do this, we don't use the term core, we use the term pillar. In general, when we start talking about core, it turns into muscles, multifidi, transverse abdominis, you name it. However, we get lost in the weeds very quickly. So we use the term pillar, which is the interconnection between the shoulders, torso, and hips to create efficient movement patterns. This resonates very well across the disciplines to include strength and conditioning and sports science. Most importantly, it resonates with the athlete because they can conceptualize this continuum. Each athlete that comes in our doors goes through an iterative process of learn, design, deliver, and refine. During the learning phase, this is not unique. We take a detailed subjective. What we've found is we need to be very detail-oriented and tease a lot of information out. Because a 23-year-old NFL player that's in front of us may not mention the gnarly high ankle sprain he had when he was 17 because it doesn't hurt him anymore. It's not a big deal. They've been a high performer for several years since then. But what we do know is this can create compensatory movement patterns that last unless they're fully remediated. We take a detailed history in their sleep. How much do you sleep? How well do you sleep? When do you sleep? What do you take for sleep aids, over the counter or otherwise? We need to know this so we can understand and inform our team how well they may or may not adapt between sessions, week over week, month over month. We take a detailed history on their diet. Our nutrition team jumps in. Are they eating fruits and vegetables, the full rainbow of phytonutrients and lean meats and proteins? Or are they running through the fast food drive-thru for breakfast and dinner and maybe skipping lunch? Again, helps us inform adaptation. And the last component, we'll actually ask them social history in terms of eating, drinking, and smoking habits. We cast no judgment, but again, these are things we need to know so that can inform our programming and also let us know if something may get in the way of any sort of operative procedure and healing components. After we gather that, we get in more of our objective piece. And I know your all eyes are calibrated by NASA to that, but I'll be brief. What we want to do, again with that movement lens, is take a global movement approach first. We'll have them go ahead, we'll look at cervical spine patterns, flexion, extension, rotation. We'll look at upper extremity patterns, first both the quantity and the quality. When they reach up overhead, do they get a reversal of their thoracic kyphosis and full shoulder flexion, or are they hinging at their LT junction? It just gives us a pattern. From there, we'll have them bend over and touch their toes so they get posterior weight shift, a nice uniform curve. Have them bend backwards, have them rotate, again 50 from below the pelvis, 50 from above. We'll have them do a single leg stance. We'll have them do an overhead deep squat and a reverse lunge. We do these things, and this is iterated over time, because these are patterns that we believe that athletes need to be able to do to function at a high level over a long period of time. We'll then break this down into its local components. And I won't go over each one of them, but we do it in a variety of positions. In a seated position, we'll see how their spine moves. We'll go ahead and look at anterior chain length, hip internal and external rotation. We'll lay them on their back supine. We'll check things like active versus passive straight leg rates. In the absence of any sort of neural symptoms, they have an active straight leg raise of 50 and a passive of 80. Well, we don't need to stretch the hamstring. We need to look at some sort of stability motor control dysfunction proximally that's causing that. And how might that impact their ability to go ahead and multi-segmental flex like we talked about earlier. We'll have them also go prone. We'll check their hip internal and external rotation. We'll check their extension. We'll also check quadruped, thoracic spine extension, rotation. Again, all of these are pieces to what we've already checked on the global portion. And we'll check ankle dorsiflexion. Because going back to what we talked about earlier with the young man that had the gnarly ankle sprain, this allows us to contextualize the process with the athlete. Because if their left ankle is a ski boot and has 2 degrees of dorsiflexion, but their right ankle has 35, that's tangible, right? We can talk amongst ourselves about what's going on, but it doesn't matter if the athlete can't see it. So that allows us to create a corrective plan that they can hold on to, they can see objective positive change, and we can explain, hey, you know when you get on the line, you get in your set position when it pinches or you can't get there, you feel awkward, then it kind of connects dots. Then we have buy-in, which is the most important piece of the whole thing. This allows us, and we keep things very simple, as you saw by the pillar, right? We're not rocket scientists here. We're just trying to get people to move faster and stay healthy. All of that allows us to put folks into one of 2 buckets. The force absorption or coiling bucket, which is essentially the brakes, right? If you're gonna give a car a gas pedal, you better have brakes. You're gonna give a human a gas pedal, you also gotta make sure the brakes are working. This is essentially the combined motion of everything up there, ankle dorsiflexion, tibial internal rotation, knee flexion, femoral internal rotation, adduction, ipsilateral T-spine rotation, glenohumeral extension internal rotation. So we've already pieced out these pieces on the previous slide. So if it's dysfunctional and we see them get into it, what might be causing it? The other bucket is force propulsion. Can they get force up and across midline? So the combined motion is ankle plantar flexion, tibial and femoral external rotation, extension of the knee and hip, contralateral T-spine rotation, because again, they are driving force up and across midline. And we can go ahead, when you talk to an athlete, you want to say, hey, you need dorsiflexion for this, you need hip extension for this. When you just talk about it, it doesn't really do anything. I mean, it doesn't do much for me either, quite frankly. But if you show a picture of this guy who they can connect with and they need to move fast and that's their livelihood, all of a sudden, again, we're getting more buy-in. The next step, and depending on how they did on the pillar per exercise, I mean, not everybody goes to this next step. If they're very banged up, we'll pump the brakes. But we want to get as much data as we can, so we put them down to our sports science section. We use force plates, so we can assess their power in a vertical direction. Most importantly, we can also find asymmetries. And then we can correlate those asymmetries on what we found earlier in their local and global movement patterns. We have a Nord board there that we can use to assess posterior chain strength or hamstring strength in an eccentric and isometric fashion. And then that other device, there's a force frame. You can use it for any body part. We generally use it for ab and adduction isometrically. Again, that's all to learn. And then we have to design something that matters, that's fruitful for the athlete. Because we can self-inform ourselves and think we're very smart, but if we're not doing anything with it, it doesn't matter. We create short and long-term goals just like we do for anybody. The short-term goal, or the long-term goal is just look a little different because we have to have a very keen understanding of what their goal is. So for instance, a defensive end in the NFL that's going back mid-season, right? We have metrics. We know they need to be able to run 300 yards at greater than 12 miles per hour. we know they need to run another 1,000 yards at 6.6 to 12 miles per hour for a total of 1,300 yards within a practice. We know their body fat needs to be about 19% or less. So we can start that process on day one with our team to get them into spec. We also have historical data from our sports science stuff. If they've been with us, we have baselines. If not, we can reach out to the team, and if willing, they'll give us those baselines. We can get them back to baseline, if not above baseline, which is always our goal. From there, it's kind of where the rubber meets the road. We actually have to deliver the product, which is why they come to us. Again, keeping it super simple, we use a numbering system to stratify our athletes, to put them in the carousel ride of performance or rehab. There's actually a 0 on here, probably strategically left out, because a 0 is they're so banged up they do nothing, which doesn't happen very often. Like if you understand the left and right boundaries of each number in the context, you can get something positive for each athlete in each section. We have this numbering system for each component of our training system, from med ball to plyo to skill work, all the way from the strength component and energy system development, which is our cardiovascular. To contextualize this for you guys, energy system development, 0 is no ASD. That's very rare. A 1 is where we need to create that aerobic base, because with our athletes, we can't let them become less fit, right? They need to maintain an aerobic base at all times. We do this in a non-impact fashion. A 2 is an anaerobic plus aerobic work, so we can put the gas down, but we're still non-impact. We want to linearly increase variables. This allows us to progress or regress based on their adaptation or not. A level 3, going back, got carried away. A level 3, we actually introduce impact in a technical manner. We'll let them put that foot in the ground and have some ground reactive force through the chain, but we'll do it in a linear fashion only and at small dosages. And we'll progress that to a 4, which is essentially getting back to full sport. There's change of direction. They need to put that foot in the ground hard to accelerate and decelerate. Our lifting progression is very similar. A 0 is a no lift. Doesn't happen that often. If we use a squat as the example, a 1 could be something quadruped. The spine is slinged. It's a very safe position, no matter if they're post-operative or conservative. We can have them quadruped with a physio ball between their sit bones and the wall, have them push into the ball. We get that triple flexion pattern. We keep that spine from moving. We get a co-contraction. We're getting something done. We have fundamental stabilization. During the 1 stage, we're also cleaning up all of those biomechanical things we found during our pillar prereq assessment. So if they're ankles or ski boots, we're going to fix those so they can actually get into the pattern and get into the 2. A 2 is body weight. We have them move with proficiency, check the box, and go through a phase of body weight training in that pattern. Once we've deemed them proficient, we've had no hang-ups, and they're adapting well, that's when we go to a level 3. And we actually start adding load at this point. Think hypertrophy, so more volume and less intensity. We want to start having tissue adaptations. We're starting to get them strong. And a level 4 is where we actually kind of get some good neural changes, and we're getting back to the strength, performance themes, when we start using strength and then speed, and then we add them together and create power. That's return to sport, and that's what most folks are looking to get to. The process of this is not to explain how to do a squat or how to do cardio. But on the rehab team, we need to make sure we're just being very particular in our variables. It should be very linear. That way, if somebody is not adapting, almost hip checked myself at the table there, we can go ahead and make sure that we know why. We can pare it back a little bit. And we can have good conversations with you guys. So you can say, hey, we had this for this reason. We got to heal them from the inside out. And there's no doubt nutrition is a gap across the board. We try to fill this gap as best we can. In the facilities, we're blessed. We have chefs on site that do curated meal plans based on their needs. During COVID, we didn't have the chefs on site, but we had to get creative, and it worked very well using third parties like Trifecta or Factor that can meet very healthy needs. Because again, we need to have a phytonutrient, lean meat, protein, dense nutrition plan. A lot of times we found that folks were actually eating less because they wanted to keep their body composition within spec, and they were not adapting well between sessions. And then you educate them, you can actually eat more, you just gotta eat clean. We have protocols based on tissue, and as you can see here, we'll use things post-operatively or post-injury, like specialized pro-resolved mediators. We use collagen with vitamin C, vitamin D. We use some Elite for nitric oxide. All of this is just to make sure we're giving that person the best chance. We're not looking at gravitational change. We're looking at 0.1% differences with this population, because that's what makes them a very competitive level athlete or not. Scott asked me, what PTs wish surgeons knew about the rehab process. And that was pretty much everything I've said so far. We have a very linear approach. There's nothing groundbreaking. There's zero guru about it. Like, we just add variables one at a time. No matter where they're entering in the rehab carousel, conservatively or postoperatively, the variables always are in the same order, and we can regress and lateralize as needed. The other thing is that we love feedback from our physician partners. You guys have an advanced pattern recognition that we can't compare with. You've seen thousands of spines, literally from the inside and out, tens of thousands of radiographs. We don't. That's not our jam. Like, I'm doing ACLs and ankles and shoulders and elbows and spines, right? So the more information we can get from you folks is super appreciated. We'd love to get to the point of the conversation, and this happens, is like, hey, I just did a one-level fusion. The segments above and below look great. Like, live in that 1 and 2 and then progress on if they adapt well, versus, hey, I just did that fusion. My level looks phenomenal. Segment above and below is a little sporty. Maybe we want to go a little slower, live in that 2 phrase for an extra phase or 2. Good information that we'd love to have. I used all my time, though. So I appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much. And thank you, and have a good rest of your summit.